just branch off of that for thoughts and stuff like that. I guess I'll start. For me, it's kind of like many young people, we typically struggle with questions with identity and purpose, may even question our beliefs, values, and stuff like that. Because like we live in a world now where we, I guess like it kind of goes back to what we were talking about almost like before about Gen Z and millennials. We kind of in that time where we're more open-minded, so we tend to not be stagnant traditionally. So it's kind of like opening our eyes for the first time. And there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with being curious at all. And it just, there just needs to be more support of that. So I feel like the struggle with that, and also being the black sheep of the family, because sometimes people they have their own beliefs, but their family believes in this. And the younger people or the sons and the daughters are like, I understand, but I have my own set. So that's my take on the identity and purpose.
That's a good take, and I can see where it could cause some confusion, especially in family, where you draw those family lines, because you were raised in literally what that family fabric holds together as religion, and whatever path you choose to follow, later on in life, as you become a free thinking adult, you kind of look and may challenge, those family thoughts may challenge what you now know or your belief in. So it's kind of hard, but that is life. You're trying to find yourself and your purpose, and sometimes it may be at the expense of disconnecting yourself from family in terms of what family believes in, family beliefs. So it all comes down to the one, moral aspect of respect, right? Like as you said, respect between everyone's viewpoints. My viewpoint doesn't have to be the same as others. So and it also is incumbent upon parents, and I think this is kind of where it gets kind of tricky. The more liberal parents get, the more understanding or open-minded I guess that they get too, and that is good for society, because that enables their child to grow up and let them think for themselves, right? But here's the tricky part: it's hard to implement when that is for their child, so you can't put an age to it. So some parents might start maybe way too early and have that child think for themselves, but it's like you can't, because they're still a child, 9, 10, 11, 12, and that child's able to express something that they might grow up wondering, dang, why did I do that when I was 10 or 11 years old, right? And they might start to neglect that thought in the process of life. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think all it has to do with is moderation, right? And giving your child an open voice, and allowing that child to grow, and catering to how they see the world, and within that way you can kind of police in a good way.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That does make a lot of sense. I think, just to add to that, or maybe a different perspective, I think one of the reasons why a lot of the youth have issues or struggles with their identity is because of what they're seeing in society.
Right.
Most of the time we're middle school, high school, college, and we're just talking about not even necessarily on a spiritual level. Those are when you enter a specific realm where there is continuous classification, and also, you're put in a box, you're put in a bubble. But on a spiritual or religious tip, it does start at a very young age, because you're being taught to look at something most of the time outside of yourself, or something that doesn't necessarily look like you, right, as being something at a higher order. So on a spiritual level, if you're taught this as a kid, and then you come into your own, especially in 2023, 24, the new age, people in the 2000s, you're going to compare yourself to a lot of other people outside of your community.
Exactly.
And most of the time, on a spiritual level, when you're thinking about how you identify yourself just in a social environment, let alone a spiritual environment, you're going to question everything about yourself. Everything, right? I think that's one of the main issues that especially individuals like us, melanated people in the melanated community, in the African community, the African American community. I've heard this so many times. I heard this when I was in middle school. I heard this when I was in high school. Just the fact that I have an African name, right? And I say it with pride. If I say my African name with pride, I have African Americans that begin to make jokes or ask questions. And sometimes when they see that how I conduct myself is me, there's no question about where I come from. There's no question about who I am. There's no question about my beliefs, because I grew up in a family that upheld that aspect of culture. And you have individuals in the African American community that are clamoring for that because they don't necessarily know where they come from, or they question everything that has to deal with just on a social level, let alone a spiritual level. So the youth now is questioning that at such a high level. It's almost scary. That's some of the reasons why they push away from not only from religion, but they push away from society in general.
And that's the thing. I think, I don't want to say parents, but the older part of the generation, they don't give credit to how smart and capable children really are.
Exactly.
And, children will ask a myriad of questions, and it's like, it seems just like it'll just come in clusters and whatnot, in waves. And oftentimes they ask so many questions is because the reason they ask so many questions is because they are trying to really find the question that they want to ask. That is the reason children ask so many questions, because they are trying to find that exact question to ask. And when they finally get to that exact question, it's like the parent, they can't answer it. And I think sometimes, parents run from that responsibility, and it's a kind of like a double-edged sword, because you don't want to, kids are very knowledgeable and they're very smart. They can do things with that knowledge. So you just have to be kind of careful, I guess, how you parent your child. I'm not one to really speak on that, because I ain't got no kids.
Right.
But just kind of looking at society in my perspective or whatnot, I can see how that would cause some issues.
Absolutely.
But I do understand where you're coming from too.
Imo when, yeah.